All right, we're live. We're live. All right, so normally when you think of a midnight snack, you don't usually think of a salad. You think about the drive-through when you're on that.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
Or, you think about going downstairs, getting some leftovers or something like that. But normally you don't have a salad for a midnight snack. Times are changing. Because tonight we are going to consume a word salad courtesy of Nick Caley. Probably the most popular guy that we're talking about right now. Although I think CJ Stroud should be being discussed just as much. But Nick Caley went to the podium today. He was asked about the performance by the Texans offense. Asked a lot of questions. I asked a few. Stoots asked a few. DJ Bieneme, Jonathan Alexander. Alpha Aaron was there.
Hey, bro. Alpha Aaron here.
Kim Davis was there. Luis was there. And it was salads galore from Nick Caley. And this is on the aftermath of CJ Stroud feeding us NyQuil for our salad. Now, the good news is that actions matter more. And by the way, this video brought to you by Sleeper. I do have my first higher lower of the week. We'll go over that in a second. Shout out to a lot of people using that promo code Locker and playing along on Sleeper. Survivor pool pick was Buffalo, most popular in the Survivor pool. Ended up on top there. But we'll get to that in a sec. We'll also hear from Trevor Lawrence. We'll talk about a battle between two of the faces of the franchise and expectations with the other three that I think I'm just going to remind myself of. You can follow along if you want. I'm not going to tell you how to feel, but I think I need to remind myself of a few things. But let's get right into this. Let's hear Nick Caley, and let's hear what Nick Caley has to say about everything that's going on right now. There's a lot of things that we want to hear. So get your dressing, croutons. If you like croutons, get those ready. Let's consume and react to the word salad from Texans offensive coordinator Nick Caley.
What are some of the challenges you faced in these first two games that kept you from maybe operating what you practiced and put in the preseason?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just staying on schedule, I think, and I thought we made progress in that area, but still, too many second and longs, still not as efficient as we want to be collectively. So I'd say starting with that, and trying to stay on schedule so you have the whole call sheet at your disposal, really.
Brother. Is staying on schedule like the new thing that we're just going to hear nonstop? Is this the new, I got to be better with Bill O'Brien? Here's my problem here. That's not what the problem was. The problem was when you got close to the end zone, you either had to settle for 3 or you get to the 1 yard line and you don't score. That was the problem. Staying on schedule, it's not always going to be a thing. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was you got to the 1 yard line, you didn't score, you got to the red zone, and you threw 2 uncatchable balls. So that's not what happened. That's not a detailed response. That's a robotic, scripted salad response with extra croutons. Back to Nick.
You worked on throughout the week.
You're in the red zone.
Nick.
Now he's going to try to explain what happened in the red zone. Maybe he does better here.
What was the intention, and what do you think held you guys back from getting the touchdown you hoped for there with the first goal?
Well, I would say, we get down there, we ran the ball, obviously, stuck in a run, didn't really gain much on it at all. Then you get into a third down situation.
Didn't gain much. You needed a yard. The no gain's not the end of the world.
and at that point, have a lot of confidence in the guys that we have on the team. So called a red zone, low red zone play that we have a lot of belief in, and it didn't work out. Again, our process, I feel confident in the process. Gets to fourth down, same thing. Call a low red zone, third down, call it third and fourth down play. Didn't work out the way we want it. So again, got to assess those things and move on and learn from it. And just I can do better. We all can do better. So
All right, Bill O'Brien.
moving forward and trying to grow.
Where have you seen the growth, I guess, from weeks 1 and 2? If you had to say, you know what, we got work to do, but this is where I've seen some.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of growth. And sometimes, you if you sit there and live with the results and stuff, which we're all, there is an element to that, obviously, but the process is more important. What I've seen a growth in is starting fast. I thought we started with the right intent. The urgency in and out of the huddle, cleaner operation, good communication on the sideline. There was a good intent by all of our guys on the sideline. We had really good focus and energy. I thought the fundamentals have improved from week 1 to week 2, and I just think it's about finishing those things and finishing drives, finishing plays a little bit better, and just striving to do that. And it starts on the practice field, and we'll continue to go at those things to work to improve.
How do you think having Christian Kirk back could affect this offense?
Yeah, Christian's a really, really good player. He's a special person. He's smart. He's versatile. So we're excited to get him back out there, and go from there. Build up any expectations other than for him to go out there and play at his best and compete. And that's what he does every single day. He's here. He's got a great spirit about him. So we're excited to have him back out there.
How can you help out the offensive line outside of them just winning their individual matchup? Obviously, you want them to win their individual matchup, but are there ways that you can help make it easier to protect CJ outside of just saying block the man in front of you?
Yeah, sure. I think everything that we think about before we draw up any pass play is with the intention of having the best protections.
See, I don't care what the intention is. Like, obviously, you want to protect the quarterback, but I really don't care about the intention. So, just really want to know, that you know what you're doing. So the intention just doesn't really do it for me, but
that we can possibly have. So, that's personnel driven from us, from the teams we're playing. That's schematically what challenges, what front structures, what coverage contours you're going to see, what teams activate certain blitzes. And we go at those things on the front end of the week, and then we try to set the table from that standpoint to build the pass concepts from there.
There was a widely circulated graphic that showed that when you guys are under center, it's significantly skewed to running versus shotgun passing. Are you concerned about that at all?
I think we always try to have some balance in everything that we do. The one thing I would say is early on in the season, especially if you take the inventory of the first 2 games, you get back to a lot of get back on track situations. At that point, we're trying to make some positive plays. So no, in the long term, I'm really not. Because I feel like we do a good job of trying to stay on top of that. Some of these outcomes, come into situations in the games that evolve, whether it's obvious pass situations, et cetera. So I think it dictates it game by game. Certainly, you want to have as much balance as you can.
Y'all got off good with Nico beginning of the game. Then the rhyme and the flow, and I know you try to call the play with the rhyme and the flow. What was it that sort of was the disruptive factor to get started, and then all of a sudden just get thrown off track?
Yeah, I think it's never one thing, right? It's the totality of a lot of different things. It could be, is there a pressure that might affect it? Are there different things coverage-wise that might present themselves? So every play is its own entity, and what I can tell you is just from the standpoint of evaluating and assessing those things, we try to go in with a really good plan. Every single week we have intentions to try to get our guys in good position to make plays, and that's going to always be the focus. So coming out of the game, I think people do different things. There's certain things we might be off schedule on a play, and it kind of disrupts maybe the initial reads or stuff like that. But the intention is to go out there and try to play clean football, and as long as we can continue to improve on that, I'm very confident.
Does anyone question his intention? That was the word of the day today. It's actually one of the weirdest words of the day that I can remember hearing almost in my entire career of covering the Texans. Does anyone in the world, did anyone in the world think that David Culley, Lovie Smith, Tim Kelly, Bobby Slowick, any coach that we've ever been pissed off about, did we ever think that they didn't have good intentions and didn't want to do the right thing? I just don't does he think Is he having to explain himself to somebody? Like it almost feels like maybe behind the scenes, and I'm jumping here, but I'm trying to make sense of this, because we talk about like a lot about like, we'll get back to him, but we talk a lot about, Bill O'Brien said I got to do better. That, as annoying as that is, and as nondescript as that is, he's right. Nick Caserio talks about process. I get it. The process has to be right. Sometimes the results work, sometimes they don't. D'Amico talks about execute. That's right. But like, does anyone, like, where is this intent coming from? Like, is he behind the scenes having to like explain to somebody that we're trying to help you out? Because it just feels like Nick Caley, his whole vibe has just changed in the last 2 weeks. And you can say, well, they're not performing well, but the whole vibe has changed. And it almost seems proportionate to CJ Stroud and what his vibe has been. But when a guy is coming out here and he's talking about intent, it's like, who are you having to explain that to, and why are you explaining that? I've never in my life questioned, regardless. Like, I think Dare Ogunbowale wants to play very well. I think that Damian Pierce wants to play very well. Take the worst Texans in the history of the game and the worst coaches. I never really questioned their intent. So why is he having to explain his intent? Is this something that he's having to do behind the scenes, or what? I don't get it. The word intent, I never even thought that was something that Nick Caley would have to explain. Is that just me being on my own random ass soapbox? That it very well could be. It very well could be. I'm confused as to why Nick Caley has to explain intent. It makes no sense to me. Tell me if I'm crazy or not. Here's more from Chase just said it. Kenyon Green, I never thought that Kenyon Green did not want to be good. So where is this intent? Who is he having to explain it to? I don't know. Let's get some more word salad.
Group that will be able to do that.
In terms of understanding what you're asking them to do, where is your offensive line there as you look back at the game tape in week 2? Are they understanding what you're asking in terms of protection?
Yeah, they do. They work hard at it. We spend a lot of time on the protection. We got great room of good people that care, and we've made steady strides from the jump. Is it perfect all the time? No. Are there technique things that we got to clean up at times? Yeah, at all positions, of course. But I'm happy with where they're at. They show solid understanding and awareness when we're on the practice field. We put them in as many hard situations as we can, and we'll continue to do that, and we'll continue to learn from some of the things that have come up to get better. It's a race to get better with fundamentals. It's a race to get better to improve some of the things that you struggle on. That's the National Football League. We all got to do a better job, starting with me.
With the rookies, I think there's 6 combined targets.
Look at this stat right here. I just dropped this stat on him.
And there's 3 explosive plays in the pass game with those guys. Is that something that you might want to see a little bit more, and could we see more of maybe those guys getting on the field?
Sure, I think again, yes, those guys have done a really good job, okay? And we have opportunities. I think a lot of our guys can do really positive things with the ball in their hands. So, again, week to week, package to package, who we have available, and we'll continue to grow. I've been pleased with all those guys, and I've said that before, and that's the truth. So we just got to keep continuing to get better and working at those things.
How do you think Woody's pass protection has been?
I think he's done a good job since he's gotten here. I think that he's going to continue to improve in those facets, and I have a lot of confidence. And then Danny does a great job with those guys, and he's got a great guy, obviously. When you look at Nick and Dare that have had a lot of experience in this league to model from.
Yeah, don't follow Dare's lead, Woody. No, don't follow his lead. Follow Nick's, but don't follow Dare's, please.
You just mentioned based on week to week and each package for each game.
Yeah.
How do you balance as far as going with maybe quote unquote the best players, the ones that are producing most on the field, or what you just said, kind of going based off of what package you have available?
Yeah, I think it starts with who we have available, personnel, and that's what guys are up, what guys do we have available from a health standpoint, and then two, it's what are we getting presented to by the defense. Like not every defense is going to match certain things the same way. Not every defense is going to give you the same coverage structures, pressure looks, etc. So where do we feel we can gain an advantage? That's what we do on the front end of the week, and we try to put our guys in the best position. That's what we're always going to try to do. So again, does it always go the way that you want it? No, it doesn't. But you learn and you assess and you get better. And as long as we keep improving on those things, I have a lot of confidence in the guys that we have, coaches and players in this building.
From a run game standpoint,
Yep.
what are some things where you see there's opportunities to get better? With the exception, obviously, it was a touchdown for Nick, but the rushing average generally low, and obviously they're a stout defense. All of that considered,
Sure.
what do you think it's going to take to be able to be more of a downhill running team?
Just better fundamentals. I do. I think we've got guys that can make yards with the ball in their hands. I think we've got guys that have shown up front the ability to continue to improve. I think it's just continuing to keep our pads down, to stay connected to blocks, pressing our aiming points with the backs, doing a good job with the receivers, going in and getting force, having the tight ends be stout at the line of scrimmage. It's all those things, and it's not ever one particular thing. But I feel like the one thing I feel like the guys, Nick especially the last two games has gotten stronger as the game goes on. He's a pro. He's strong. He's consistent. And
Give him the ball on the one then.
Ultimately we got to just continue to have a good process,
Give him all the one.
and just keep on getting better fundamentally along the way and growing and learning along the way.
Would you help getting some of the guys back, like Jake and Christian and Barrios, back into the offense? I know it's next man up, but they, getting those guys back.
Yeah, no, it's always great to get them back. You'd rather, you wish you had all of them there at your disposal from the jump, but it's great. I mean, they're out there competing. We got good energy, good intent. Those guys are excited to be out there too. I mean, they don't want to be away, so it's always good to have them out there with us.
Do you expect the pressure that the Bucks showed, do you expect teams to kind of copy that until you guys show you're better capable of handling
Yeah,
that?
sure. I did definitely. You prepare that way. I think it's like anything else in this league. You got to. It's a race to improve the things that you haven't done well, and to enhance and continue to strengthen things that you do well.
Over a couple of years, CJ's been one of the better quarterbacks when motion's incorporated into the drop back.
Yep.
You knew DJ was asking motion today.
In terms of motion usage, what's just kind of been not necessarily the reluctancy to use that, but the lack of using more motion within plays to kind of get guys not wide open per se, but just making things kind of easier potentially on the quarterback.
Yeah, I think if you can gain an advantage, a decided advantage, I think that it's definitely something that you want to obviously incorporate. Though, in terms of getting out and getting set, there's some games that we may use more. There's some games that we may not use as much. And I think that's week to week. And that's
God.
the honest truth. We've used plenty of motion back to spring and training camp, and we have the ability to do that with what we do too.
Heard that before.
Nick,
Yep.
you mentioned you have, confidence in the long term that things can trend the right
Sure.
way. And I know it's early in the season, but then the games, they go fast. The season
Yep.
does go by fast. In regards of just as a human being, emotions, how do you feel as far as how much time you have?
Yeah, I always have. In my mind, I'm always putting pressure on myself to be urgent and try to get things done. I never want to let anything fester. That's how I've been. That's how I was raised in this profession, and that's how I'll continue to be. I don't think anybody's ever satisfied with anything. None of us are satisfied. We all want to play at our best. We're all working every day to try to do that. Starting with D'Amico, he brings a great energy. He's a great leader, and we have that throughout our building. We have good people on this team, coaches, players, and that's what we're going to do. It's a race to continue to get better, and I'm not going to sit there and live. Obviously, you want the great results. Obviously, we all want to come out of this thing with a win every single week. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the process to me is as important as anything. That can't be wrong. That's got to be in line, and I feel confident in that. We just got to play more consistent. We got to play cleaner. We got to play with better fundamentals. I got to do a better job early on of getting us going too, and we can all collectively do that. And as long as we just keep working, I believe in what we're doing, and I believe in the people in this building. Yep, thank you guys. Have a great day.
All right, there you go. That's Nick Caley. Okay, got some stuff to get to when it comes to Nick Caley. First, though, want to remind y'all we'll be at Spanky's 2 Fridays from now. Telephone Road, out there, Sharpstown location. We're going to go there throughout the season. Might go there Saturday and watch some college football, to be honest with you. So I'm a big fan of the bar food. I'm a big fan of the pizza. Fresh made dough every morning, fresh made sauce. Spanky's is a new place where I watch games, and we will be there twice a month throughout the season. Next visit will be 4 p.m. Sharpstown location. We hope to see you there. Shout out to the probably 40-ish that showed up last time. We want to see you there. It's only going to get bigger and better. Shout out to the greatness that is Spanky's. Okay. Couple things. We'll go to the chat before I get to this Nick Caley thing, because I'm gonna put on the detective glasses because I'm confused. Now, some of you smartasses, which I think it's better to be a smartass than a dumbass. That's always what I say. I've been called a smartass my whole life. My answer to those accusations has always been, I'd rather be a smartass than a dumbass. Some of you might say I'm always confused. Sometimes I agree with you. But here's what I want to talk about with Nick Caley, and it's one of the themes of this press conference. And I think we've kind of dug through the salad, and maybe we're figuring out what's going on. First, though, let's go to the super chat here on the locker room. 3 sleeps away from the Texans getting back on the field, and they say Duval. Yeah, Duval. You ain't never hate. Swarm. Shout out to Malik. He says, I don't know why they don't throw jump balls having 3 tall wide receivers. You're talking about Hutchinson, Nico, and Higgins. Higgins is a basketball player. I don't know. Like it feels like CJ doesn't really give his receivers chances to go make plays. It feels like he's either aiming it to try to make the perfect throw, or if they're not wide open, they're not getting the ball. It wasn't always like that, but it doesn't seem like he trusts him. Now, he did do it in week 1 with Higgins. And what did we say after that? Good throw by CJ. Way to give the guy a chance to go up and make the play. Had no problem with it. So it's not like, they have this, D'Amico and CJ have this tendency, which I think is funny, because we've completely dismissed, they listen to the outside noise. They listen to it a lot. Like they do. That like they for a while they were functioning based on the outside noise when it came to injuries. That was D'Amico's whole rant. So they do. But a lot of times I think they just make stuff up and assume, or they take like one opinion and they act like that's the opinion of everyone else. Because CJ probably said, well, people say you should. Nah, I thought it was a good throw. I thought it was fine. But they do listen to the outside noise. But yeah, it would be nice to give the receivers a chance to make a play. And maybe he figures that out. There's clearly something missing offensively. Not saying it's the quarterback or just the offensive line. But there's something missing in most areas. And Kayley, I did think, did a good job of mentioning. I'll give Nick his props on that. He did do a good job of mentioning it's not always just one thing. Nick. Evan's got a 3-piece combo. Shout out to Evan. Sorry I have not been here, but I couldn't do it these past few days. I don't think I can watch week 3, Landry. If we lose, I will lose it. Love you. Yeah, I don't blame you, man. Like if they lose, there's only one team in the history of or in this last century that's gone 0-3 and made the playoffs, and it was those 2018 Texans. Now, the playoffs have expanded, but trust me, I feel your pain, man. I don't have that luxury, but yeah, stepping away, I think that might be healthy with the stuff that you've seen. Past few days, been Texaned out. Understand, man. Understand. Glad to have you back, though. Says we are the next Miami Dolphins. All right, now you're just getting emotional, Evan. Just kidding. Go713 says, I heard you were tired of fans bringing up it's CJ's first year play caller yesterday. Yeah, because I don't think that's the reason why things are going bad. I think it's I don't think that that's the reason why Bobby Slowick struggled, because he was great his first year, or the offense was great, and every play caller has been a first-year play caller. Baker Mayfield's had 3 straight. That's the example that I point to. So yeah, I think it's just trying to point to an excuse and a reason instead of realizing that there's a bigger fundamental problem. When you do that, you're basically letting them off the hook. If you just say, okay, it's because it was a first-year play caller. How did Ben Johnson do as a first-year play caller for the Lions? I think he did all right. I think he kind of played his way into stuff. What if the Lions had never hired Ben Johnson? I know right now he's a head coach. Separate head coach from what he was as a play caller. What if they'd never hired him and given him his first opportunity? What if Andy Reid had never gotten the opportunity to call plays? What if Washington would have never hired Sean McVay? So, like, first of all, I just naturally don't think it's a thing. But the other thing is, I think you're almost giving them an excuse. It's like now you hear some people, and Stoots has said this on SNL, which you can hear at 4:00, Monday through Friday, all podcast platforms, most importantly, right here on our home YouTube. But, well, they didn't invest heavy in the offensive line. So when you say that, now all of a sudden, what do they say when we talk about the kick the can down the road with the head coach? Okay, now they're just going to go all in on the offensive line. We forget how much they had invested in the offensive line the 2 previous years. Top 2, top 3 in the league in investments. When you factor in, we don't have to go through it all. We've done this a lot. But when you factor in draft picks, contracts, all that, they invested a lot. So when you say this, it's just a first-year play caller. I don't agree. I don't agree. Matter of fact, I wouldn't mind hiring another first-year play caller if they do this. What do you want to do? How's Chip Kelly doing right now? He's not sucking because he's not a first-year play caller. So I don't agree with it, and I think it lets them off the hook. So that's my whole point on that. There's no I got you on that. Now, if you want to say Nick Caley sucks, okay. Well, he doesn't suck because he's a first-year play caller. That's my whole point on that. That's not sitting here saying, oh, I wanted to hire Nick Caley because he's a first-year play caller. No, I think I don't agree with that outlook on that. Never have. I think it's simp stuff. Blue Boy 9. I'm not calling you a simp though. Blue Boy 9, just the opinion, which I have a lot of simp opinions. Blue Boy 9 says, I don't think we're asking the right questions. I want to know who's evaluating the talent for the roster. What are they looking for when scouting O-linemen? Do you think O-line is the only issue? Like, do you think that's the only issue? Like, let's just take a step back. Let's take a step back because some people just don't want to even entertain that this might be it. If the urgency out of the huddle has been a longer than 1 year thing, there's different coaches, there's different offensive linemen, there's a different system. What's the constant? If you're asking Nick Caley these questions, Nick Caley has nothing to do with this scouting thing. We know who the scouts are, and we know who's making the decisions on the offensive line. But if things are the exact same, what do you think it is? Evan McKinley says, I've muted group chats, avoided the gym for H-Town. Now you got to avoid the gym for us. You got to avoid the gym for us. What's my biggest simp opinion? God. Time zones for sure. Time zones that I don't believe in time zones. I think it should be the same time everywhere else. That's pretty simpish. I think that I don't know. There's a lot. Y'all hear them throughout the day, but for sure the time zones. Time zones pretty simpy. D Love says, "What do you think the issue is?" I talk about this every night. I think CJ's energy is contagious. I think it's contagious, and I think it might be rubbing off on Nick Caley, which is what I'm going to get to in a second. D'Amico started out his press conference talking about energy vampires. CJ Stroud has acknowledged that he has bad body language. People see it. We see all this stuff. I'm not sitting here saying it's a finished product, but I've said this, and they suck ass at evaluating offensive linemen. They're terrible. They're trash. They're awful. They're horrible. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And I think the biggest source of hindsight that we didn't talk about is they basically kept the whole offensive staff. So I think that's a problem. I think the quarterback is an issue right now. Can it be the solution? Yes, we've seen CJ Stroud do that. But I think we're chasing our tails right now if we don't look at the most important thing. And I think we need to look at two guys that were the start of the post rebuild. And we need to just look at the difference in what those guys are and how we look at them right now. But I think there's a tendency, because quarterback is so important, and Houston has had a really bad quarterback history up till Schaub and then Deshaun and then CJ, to where the quarterback just kind of gets ignored when you're talking about things. I mean, the guy didn't throw catchable balls in the red zone, and you're blaming Nick Caley for that. Should he not trust his quarterback? I mean, I get it. Like, I understand like what you're saying he should and shouldn't do, but like, I just watched Josh Allen play. Like, if the Bills decide, it's different because Josh Allen's a freak on the 1 yard line. So this is a hard hypothetical. But if the Bills decide to trust Josh Allen the way the Texans trusted CJ Stroud on the 1 yard line, are you questioning them? Are you questioning the Bucs trusting Baker Mayfield in that situation? I think there's just a tendency to kind of tiptoe. I think there's just a tendency kind of tiptoe around it. It doesn't mean he sucks. It doesn't mean he's the worst quarterback ever, but I mean, it is kind of a thing. We'll get to it in a sec. First, though, I'll talk about that turf. Y'all know I like to talk about that turf. Y'all know I like green. And the green in my backyard is one of my favorite greens. Texans Turf. Shout out to Dan. Shout out to his team. The putting greens, the play areas. It's the best thing you'll do. No more insects. No more dry ass grass. If you got a nice lawn, props to you. But in the backyard, especially if you have a pool, especially if you like to fire up the fire pit, especially if you got a kid and a dog that you want to be able to go play outside without getting a bunch of bugs, dirt, scratch, all that, Texans Turf is the way to go. They got the draining system, so it drains for you. They got the pebbles underneath. It's easier to handle. They've done some big jobs, and they've done mine. And I was a customer before I started shouting them out. A lot of you see these advertisements. There's hundreds of them. I actually shopped around, and this is where I arrived. Texans Turf. Shout out to Dan and his squad. Go to TexansTurf.com. Let them take care of you. Promise you will not regret it. This is something I want to talk about when it comes to the Nick Caley press conference. We're just talking here. But why does he have to explain his intent? Like, I like when you explain what you were thinking and what you were trying to do. I get that. But like, why was the word intent used so many times? What were you trying to do? We were trying to, like, the intent is usually pretty clear. But he used the word intent multiple times. And I'm just wondering why. Like, does he think that maybe there's a possibility that people think that he doesn't intend to play well? Is there a possibility that he thinks that maybe people think that the players aren't trying to do well? Is he having to explain that behind the scenes, like his intentions? It's weird if you think about it, that he feels that he has to explain his intent. Do y'all get what I'm saying? Like, is he having to like coddle and explain this? Is D'Amico asking him questions? Is he having to explain it to CJ? I just don't know why this guy is having to explain his intent. We all know that. Nobody's questioning that. Like, all the word salad I'm having some fun with. I have it on the thumbnail. But I don't understand. It's weird that the word intent was used so many times. Don't have an answer. Just think it's weird. There's a lot of possibilities. I find that very strange. I find it strange that he's having to explain his intent. I mean, weird. I might ask me Remind me to ask that, or I'll put it in the notes after I get off here. But I might ask him about that. Like when you're explaining your intent, why? Like what is the point of explaining intent? I'll ask him that next week. You have my word on that. Even if they win, I'll just ask what the intent was. Just like very confused by that. Because I don't think anyone questions that. Maybe he's having to explain it. Don't know. Johnny, I apologize. He says you've turned me into a podium critic, Landry. That's my lifestyle. A good and bad thing for my mental health. I think listening to what guys say on the podium is one of the best ways to follow a team. Because A, it adds to like the week-to-week buildup, and B, you just kind of remember, and there's kind of a fluidity to actually knowing the team. You can overdo it, and I'm guilty of that. I've tried to get better. I got to be better at it, but you can overthink it. But I think in some situations that it's good to kind of see and observe like what these guys are saying week to week, and then you can go back. And it's kind of like it's a useful resource for a long time. I think anyone that's in media, whether you're a radio host or a streamer or a broadcaster, I think you should listen to everything that the players say and the coaches. I think it's a good thing. So check that out. For sure. But yeah, it will drive you nuts if you overthink it. Kind of hurts your head. I got to work on it. I got to work on it week to week. On Z. Super chats.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm. High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
All right, shake it off. All right, Travis Dyson says, are Woody and Noel underutilized? Gut reaction for this week. Do we win? Why do you think that? What would be the number one reason we lose? O-line is trash. Okay. So I would say absolutely Woody, Noel, and Higgins. I would throw Higgins in there underutilized. I threw out the stat. 3 of the 6 targets that those guys have had. And Woody Marks has had 1 target as a receiver. That's a fucking joke for someone who's one of the most successful receiving running backs in recent college football history, and that you traded up for. That's a joke. That 1 catch, by the way, went for 37 yards. So I would say that's pretty good. 37, actually, my bad. I didn't mean to shortchange Woody. Pause. And then Jaden Higgins has 4 targets, and 2 have gone for 20 plus. So 4 of the 6 targets that these rookies that we've been talking about have gone for explosive plays. So you bet your ass I think that they're underutilized. And Jalen Noel, I mean, it feels like, I mean, did you draft a guy in that early to be just a punt returner? I don't know. The Justin Watson thing, like I almost feel like Justin Watson might have saved Nick Caley from himself. Because maybe now we see some Higgins. And the other thing is the Higgins and the Marks were almost like design plays. So to answer your first question, you bet your ass I think they're underutilized. Gut reaction for this week. Do they win? Why do you think that? My gut reaction would be yes, because I don't think they're a bad football team, and they own the AFC South on the road. They've never lost on the road in the AFC South under DeMeco Ryans. I feel like Trevor Lawrence is a quarterback that he can frustrate, and I like Brian Thomas Jr., but I think that Derek Stingley can hold his own against him and combat it. Now, ETN's playing really well, and a lot of us avoided him at all costs like the plague in fantasy, and he's looked like a stud the first 2 weeks. So he's playing good, but I think there's probably going to be an emphasis on the run. But I think the defense is the superpower, so that's why I would say they win. I think it's basically a pick 'em right now. But that would be my answer to that would be yes. What would be the number one reason we lose? I think the offense just struggles. Their defense is playing pretty well too. Walker's kind of coming onto his own, and Josh Hines-Allen's playing really well. So if they lose, it will be because the D-line F's them up. But I do think they win, and you bet your ass I think those guys are underutilized.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Malik says, seriously, think if they really care about the noise so much, perhaps you should ask in press conferences about the 2-minute conservative offense. Yeah, you only get so many questions. The urgency at the end of the first half was strange. I want to see if that continues, but it was really, really strange. Now they would say, well, we got past midfield after the 2-point or after the 2-minute warning, which is factually correct. And then they would say, well, and then we gave up a sack and we got pushed out. But yeah, we will. If that continues, it will definitely be asked about. AA. He asks, crazy to me that last year everyone was saying CJ didn't have enough control. Now this year people are saying there's too much for CJ to do and we're putting too much on his plate. ... ESPN. Now, was this Ryan Clark? Because the thing about Ryan Clark is he's not going to be honest about David Mulligetta clients. Like, he's very compromised when it comes to that. It's been established. It's proven. He's not going to treat them the same. Like, he treats Tua a lot different than he treats Deshaun Watson. Like, the way he talks about guys, he's a compromised guy. So when you say ESPN, it's a large ass group of individuals. I try to avoid, as someone who's worked at radio stations, the overwhelming majority of my professional career, like when they say, 610 said or ESPN said, whichever station I was at, this or that, I kind of avoid that. But if it's specifically Ryan Clark is a mouthpiece for David Mulligetta. He's compromised, and he's not going to completely be honest about a Mulligetta client, and they're not going to get evaluated. You're better off just turn off the TV when he breaks it down. He's just that compromised. So I don't know who at ESPN would say that. I do think that it was kind of dangerous to assume that just because CJ was going to get more control, that was going to 100% be a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's not a guarantee that it was going to be a good thing. So that would be my answer to that. David H. on Z Soup.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
David says some of the plays were not great. If CJ keeps at the 1 instead of handing to Chubb, he probably walks in. If Noel is running the route in the end zone instead of Watson, he most likely runs underneath the call. Couple things there. Number one, the double move. I think Chase might have brought it up in the chat. That was weird. Number two, CJ Stroud threw a couple of uncatchable balls there on the second drive of the game and the drive of the game that we're talking about. And number three, I don't think it was a zone read even. I think it was just a run all the way. I really don't, and that's always really hard to tell. But I do not believe it was a zone read. But if it was, then you are correct. But I think it was a handoff all the way play. I don't think it was a zone read. But you would be right that if it was, then that was one of Stroud's worst reads. But I believe and I think someone said that it was a run all the way. We were actually talking about this before practice Tuesday. I think it was me, DJ, and Alexander. And I think the conclusion was that it was a run all the way. But yeah, they got some problems there. Danny says, we got a fantasy question. I don't know if I'm the one to ask these things, although I am about to give a sleeper pick. Danny says, should I start ETN or Genty versus Washington? Damn. That's tough. The Genty usage is like a big conversation right now. Chip Kelly was kind of stubborn about it. I saw Chip Kelly talking about it. ETN's playing really good. He's playing really good. But this is kind of a predicament because I'm assuming that as a commissioner of your team, I'm assuming that you probably took Genty in the first round, or at least this, or no later than the second. Whew. The Texans are coming off a pretty poor performance against Tampa Bay, 5 yards a pop. But I don't feel like ETN runs the same way as those guys. Man, that's a toughie, man. That's a toughie. Me personally, what I would do, I'm looking at the ESPN rankings just to see if they have like a definitive answer. They have ETN as the 21st, and they have Genty as 10. So I would go with Genty because I think the Texans can stop ETN. But man, I didn't think ETN was even draftable this year. So that's where I would go. Should we do RPO with Woody? Travis asks. I think that what Woody needs to be on the field more. So whatever they want to do, he should be on the field more. I think he should be running routes as much as possible. That would be how I would handle him. And if you look at Woody Marks, this is actually kind of fascinating. A lot of people might not know this. But if you pull this up, and I'll share it. If you look at this, and this is just going to frustrate you a lot more if you don't already know this. I think a lot of people in here already do. But if you look at these stats, and I'll go to ESPN and I'll pull it up. Let me share the screen. Okay. So we pull up the stats here for Woody Marks. The college stats. We got NFL, college. Look at that. 1 target, 37 yards. Right here. 1 target, 37 yards as a Texan. But let's pull up the college stats. This is gonna fascinate y'all. Can y'all believe he's 24 already though? About to be 25. He's pretty old rookie. But look at this. So this is the rushing. 1 1,000 yard year. Okay. So you would look at that if you drafted a running back and you would say, if you're just looking at rushing stats, you would say, damn, 5 yards a carry, 31 touchdowns in 5 years, just 1,000 yard season. Like, why would you draft Woody Marks? Like, what is he going to do? What is he doing for you? Well, let's scroll down a little bit and let's look at this receiving. Good Lord. 60 catches, 83 catches, 48 catches, 23 catches, 47 catches, 1,546 yards, 5.9 per catch. I mean, why should we even have to have this conversation about why this guy's not running more routes? This is stupid. Like, what else did you draft the guy for? Like, what else did you draft the guy for? I mean, that's why you drafted him. You didn't draft him because of this. You didn't draft him because of that. You drafted him because of this and because he's a good pass blocker. And that's the other thing. Like, sometimes the argument for not having a running back out there is, well, he's not good in pass pro, so it's hard to put him out there. You got the guy out there as a personal protector. He's playing special teams, and he's one of the personal protectors. So obviously you trust him a little bit. Good Lord. Just seeing those stats pisses me off, man. And you got a Goomba Wale out there? And then to justify the fumble, well, he made a good play before. Yeah, Woody Marks would have made the same play. It's crazy that I have to sit here and say and watch what we watched in camp And all of a sudden, whenever the big games happen, you treat him like he's some sort of chump. But while you're treating him like a chump, he's out there as a personal protector. I'm going to get mad at Nick Caley for this, or whoever the hell's idea this is. Nick. I think Agumbawale being a captain was bad. I think Agumbawale being a captain was bad. Just don't get it. British Brooks is a good special teams player. British Brooks was a special teams captain. He was good at UNC. I'd rather have him out there at running back than Dare. But British Brooks was a good special teams player. He had like 17 tackles, I think, his final year at UNC. He's a good special teams player. Nomad Scott gave me that stat. But that's crazy. I need to relax. I need to free my mind for a second. Sometimes when I need to do that, I go with a
high-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
And other times I just decide, you know what? I need to play a little sleeper, higher, lower. And that's what I'm going to do right now. Sleeper, higher, lower. My favorite sports app, my score app. Higher, lower is my favorite game. You can play too. Get a $100 deposit match up to $100. Sleeper social media is kind of sick too. They got the college, they got the pro. You can tell they actually like sports. They're not just profiting off of it. They are, but they also enjoy it. They would be just like us. They would be in these chat rooms talking crap. They might be right now. And we're going to play the first installment of Higher Lower. And by the way, you can play it with basketball, MLB. You can play it with women's basketball. Anything you want to play, you can play. But we're going to go with the pigskin. And this is my first one of the week. I'm going to take, because the yardage is not available, spoiler alert, it will be there, Christian Kirk, anytime touchdown.
Captain Kirk, can you save me? Captain Kirk, I want to have your baby.
I'm going to take under Travis Hunter receptions. Under Travis Hunter receptions. 4.5, give me the under. And I'm going to take under Trevor Lawrence passing yards. I think they might try to run the ball. I think D'Amico's defense might respond. So that's what I'm going with. You can play too. Go to Sleeper, download the app, use the promo code LOCKER, and we got 8-1 odds here, right here, 8-1. So $5 could win me about 40. We'll see how it goes. It is a game of skill, higher, lower. Shout out to Sleeper, one of the best apps in the game, one of the best score apps for sure. Use it as a score app, and you'll be shocked how much better it is than the ones that you typically trust. So shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring the video and doing everything that they do. So that's what I'm going there. I'll take higher. Petrie can't cover Hunter, Sean says. Well, and there's no Jalen Smith. So how do they combat that? Good question. Good question. Let's give myself props. And Chase is right. It is the best fantasy football app. Not even close. But it replaced the one I used to use for sure. So we heard Nick Caley speak. A lot of word salad. I thought Matt Burke actually kind of brought it today. And I'm not really someone who usually asks Matt Burke questions just because I think he's interesting. I think he's insightful. But it's D'Amico's defense, you know? It's D'Amico's defense. But I think Burke had a good breakdown of the swarm mentality. And we heard Aziz the other day say that, you know, you got to balance the swarm mentality with fundamentals. I asked Matt Burke about that. I thought he gave a pretty good breakdown.
Aziz said yesterday there's kind of a balance between the swarm mentality and maybe kind of balancing that with fundamentals and everything in big situations, like not being too aggressive. Do you agree with that?
I don't know that I would say that that's what's been going on, but I think that's in general. There's like an emotional balance of everything we do, right? Like you can't get too high and get too just, I'm going to try to take someone's head off, or I'm going to go hit someone as hard as I can and be out of control doing things. So I would say there's always a aspect of coaching controlled aggression, and we never want to be out of control in anything that we're doing. So, but we also don't want to hold guys back from being a physical team. I think that's been on tape for 2 games and probably 2 years now that we're a physical team and we run and hit. And so that's part of our identity. So we don't want to limit that, but just understanding like situational football and when you can take your shots and when you can't, and when those times to sort of make some of those plays are. So there's always that involved.
All right. I think that's a decent breakdown by him. I also asked him about Will Anderson having 10 pressures and only 1 sack. And I don't think he realized that Will Anderson had 10 pressures in one game because he tried to correct me. I just let him do it because I didn't know if they like changed the stats. But I know what I saw on Monday. I know what I saw on Tuesday. 10 pressures in one game is insane. But Burke and Omar, shout out to Omar, even though he was wrong here. They corrected me. And I just asked him, like, is there even more to expect from Will Anderson? Here's what Burke said.
Will, obviously it's a high standard.
It is for all of our players.
10 pressures, 1 sack. Do you feel like there's more opportunity for Will to take the quarterback down more often?
He's got 2 sacks, yeah. He's got
2 sacks. 10 pressures, 2 sacks, yes.
Sack a game?
Yeah.
You want 17 sacks this year?
2 sacks.
1 sack a game? I mean, that's a pretty high standard.
I think there's more opportunity.
No. I don't.
Anyone, but 10 pressures, I mean, you just...
Yeah, I mean, like again, that's a little bit of byproduct of what we've been seeing. I mean, especially obviously week 1. Matt's really, really good at getting the ball out quick. So, like, you can win clean and you're there and the ball's out. Like, that's a pressure. And you don't really have the opportunity to sack. Like, I wouldn't say Will's fallen off sacks or has missed anything like that. He's been really good. And again, sometimes that's just as effective. Obviously, we all want sacks. Like, trust me, I want a lot of sacks. But, like, again, we want to affect the quarterback and disrupt him. And if they're doing things to limit the sack production, then forcing that ball out quick or forcing errant throws from pressures, like that can be just as effective. Sometimes even the stats don't, bear it out. But if Will ends up with 17 sacks this year, I think we'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, and look, it was 10 pressures, 1 sack in the game. I'm not questioning Will Anderson. That's not my intent here. My point is he played a phenomenal football game, and it almost feels like he can play an even more phenomenal football game. This isn't about going good to great. It's from going great to greater when it comes to Will Anderson. And I think Burke is right. Like, you'll take 17 sacks. And it is kind of a reminder, like, at the end of the day, actions are more important than words. I say that as we're breaking down words and speaking words. But I look at this, and there's kind of a big difference between Will Anderson and CJ Stroud. And if we're laying out, like, realistically how this team can be really, really good, if you go back to what we were saying about this team before the season started, it was the defense is going to be elite. They haven't been elite. They've been really, really good. They haven't been elite yet. Like, I think we all know this defense can be better, and I think most people would think this defense will be better. The offense needs to be better. I don't know that people truly believe that the offense will get better. And it's just kind of the way that this team is, where when it comes to resources, when it comes to coaching, when it comes to whatever, the mindset, the defense is superior to the offense. We can blame D'Amico if we want, or we can look at the guys that are on the team, and we can look at the 2 picks that we looked at that we thought were going to take this team where they needed to go. And that's Will Anderson and CJ Stroud. I think it might be more realistic to expect Will Anderson going from great to greater than CJ Stroud going whatever he is right now to really, really, really good. You can still win games. You can still win a lot of games. Like, if Will Anderson's even better than he is right now, I mean, the sky's the limit, because CJ Stroud's no slouch. But there's something there. There's something going on there. And we can't quite figure it out. And this is what I know about Will Anderson. Matt Burke might say that, but Will Anderson himself will say that he needs to get more sacks. Will Anderson holds himself to the ultimate standard. We heard CJ this week say, yeah, I think I'm doing what I need to do and all that. Really? You think if Will Anderson had the equivalent of a CJ Stroud, let's put it this way. If Will Anderson were performing at the level that CJ Stroud is performing at right now, and let's say that the defensive calls were ass, his surroundings were ass, and they weren't good, you think Will Anderson would say, I was okay. I was all right. I think everything's okay. The answer is no. And that's why we go back to what the expectations were between the defense versus the offense. And maybe it's just as simple as the defense just has to carry the offense. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. It feels like we're waiting around for something to happen and the whole vibe doesn't feel right. This might be me overanalyzing stuff. Or it just might be me revisiting reality. This isn't a new mindset. Talked about the defense being the superpower. The defense is going to have to lower the bar for the offense. What was the term that I used? Get them graded on a curve. Right now, you can make a case that maybe they're graded on a curve and they're still flunking. They're still flunking. It might not be the 35-point curve that we hoped that they would have. Maybe it's a 30-point curve and they're still flunking. To pass with a 30-point curve, you have to get a 40. The offense right now is getting probably a 30, 31. And they're still flunking. Maybe they just got to lower the curve. Or maybe the offense just has to get a little bit better and the defense has to get higher. But that's just revisiting reality. That's nothing new. But if I asked you this, what do you feel best about? And I'm not saying what the answer would be. I'll just ask this question. Do you think it's more likely that Will Anderson gets creme de la creme, defensive player of the year conversation type of thing, where he's around 17 to 22 sacks, something like that, something insane? Or do you think it's more likely that CJ Stroud gets up in that unquestioned second tier of quarterbacks? I'm not saying elite. Unquestioned second tier of quarterbacks. Which do you feel more confident in? I'll hang up and listen. Final thought here. And this is a random thought. But a lot of y'all have been to different stadiums and y'all have seen different features. Some people hated the hill at the juice box when it was called Enron. You hated the uphill thing. I thought it was pretty cool. I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was like I've seen worse features, including the pool in Jacksonville. Is there a worse stadium feature than the Jags pool? And I love a swimming pool more than anyone. Love it. Pool bar, sign me up. Swimming in a heated pool when it's cold, sign me up. Swimming in a pool whenever it's hot as hell, sign me up. I love the pool. I love the water. I used to like water parks, all that stuff. I love swimming pools. Who in the hell wants to sit in a nasty ass swimming pool, see-through swimming pool, while a football game is going on, watching football? That is the worst feature in all of sports. Is anything else even in the same conversation? I don't even know what to bring to the ring in this situation. Like this is like the pool, the pool in Jacksonville when it comes to the worst stadium features. It is like if Tom Brady and Michael Jordan somehow were able to hump and have a baby, it would be the Tom Brady, it would be their kid. That is how bad it is. It is every GOAT possibly combined when it comes to the worst feature. What an absolute disgrace that pool is. And you can always like see the people who are willing to go in that pool during, it's always like, you can see like the cellulite and all that, like on the see-through. That thing is awful. That thing is awful. I don't know that anything is even worse than that pool. It's got to be the worst thing in sports when it comes to features. Appreciate everyone for rolling through. Hope you enjoyed that word salad. Will Anderson, we'll see what he can do. The difference between kind of how Burke is sounding and how Nick Caley is sounding, I think we can all see that. They moved up practice. They just kind of changed the schedule accordingly, but practice is going to be early tomorrow, so we're less than like 11 hours away from practice. Daughter started daycare this week. I actually like dropping her off, even though it kind of doesn't hurt your feelings. I would rather her run right to the kids and have fun and then just say bye, daddy, than like be one of the kids who cries and says dada or mama. But it's still kind of an interesting experience. So I'm going to have to take her there in the morning. Oh, crap. I got to take her at 9:30. She's doing the ballet thing. So, damn, it's going to be an early morning for me. And they move practice up. So we'll give you the practice report, the final report, SNL at 4 o'clock. If you haven't subscribed to the collective, do me a solid and do that. It's in the description. Eat at Spanky's, get Texans Turf, play Sleeper. God, I'm a sellout. Not really. I only endorse stuff that I like. Anyway, appreciate y'all for rolling through. Subscribe, like, ride along. Always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, whether it's a midnight snack of pizza and leftover spaghetti or a word salad, we're all in this together. Appreciate y'all for rolling through.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways.